It's concise, informative, and riveting. Welcome to Week in One. I'm Heidi Jokos. Let's take a look at this week's top stories. Our news teams focus on the impact of the national shutdown in various parts of the country. The new Minister of Electricity tours the country's power plants. Gang violence seems to be the order of the day in Westbury, Johannesburg, despite increased police visibility. And the latest on the musical political chairs in Tshwane. The Newsweek began with a special focus on the national shutdown that saw 550 people arrested countrywide. The suspects were arrested for public violence, intimidation, damage to critical infrastructure, theft, and attempted looting. Despite looming fears that there would be a repeat of the 2021 looting and violence, businesses and services managed to operate with minimum disruption. We checked in with several reporters across the country in some of the hot spots. Let's recap on the day.
Taking over Durban's busiest streets. The economic freedom fighters demanded that President Cyril Ramaphosa step down. In Glenwood, scores of supporters gathered at the Red Berets offices. In a day-long protest, they marched through King Dinuzulu Park, past the City Hall and into Point Road, which led to the beachfront. But it was their entry to the entertainment hub of Florida Road that ended in tension.
But remove these boys and we want to go.
We will do that.
Yeah, remove them now.
The simple is, of course.
Tell these boys of yours to move. We want to go.
Left. That's the direction I'm giving you.
Yeah, but remove them. Want to go. Remove them.
We'll be going left. If you fail to comply, then we will.
Yeah, we will shoot. It's fine.
No,
shoot.
we don't have to do that.
No, you threaten us with shooting.
No,
you will shoot. We're going this way. Remove them.
Despite the swelling numbers, most of the central suburban areas were not fussed.
I think for us, as I say, we're not too concerned with the protest, but what we are concerned about is gender-based violence. What we are concerned about is crime. What we are concerned about generally is the environmental design, whether it's your streets, your robots which are not working, which actually make a conducive environment for crime to happen. That's what we are concerned about. We are concerned about everybody not necessarily taking a look and saying, what is our role in terms of fighting crime collectively? What are the resources that are being put into it? Because we can't always be reactive when it comes to issues of crime, but we actually need to be very proactive in terms of crime prevention.
I think businesses are fearful about what could happen or what might happen. And I think as a precautionary measure, many businesses have opted to remain closed. But it is business as usual. I mean, in the briefings that we've had with law enforcement, they said it was going to be business as usual, and it's their mandate to protect you if you want to operate today.
No memorandum was handed over, and EFF President Julius Malema is quoted as declaring this the most successful national shutdown in South Africa. Mobile Madlala, Durban.
The Western Cape pulled out all the stops to protect those who did not want to participate in the EFF's protest. Besides having boots on the ground, potential hotspots were monitored from the city's Disaster Risk Management Centre in Goodwood. This is where the hourly briefings took place to ensure a speedy response should the need arise. But the city also had an eye in the sky, and officials reported it was business as usual in the Western Cape, with some having taken leave to enjoy a long weekend.
There was an attempt on Woodstock Main Road. About 100 people assembled and started to march in the direction of Mowbray. They were dispersed. SAPs used tear gas canisters. There was an attempt to blockade the airport access road, which was intervened, and they equally dispersed, withdrew into the Nyanga area. There was an attempt last night to exercise intimidation. 10 EFF members went around Parklands and Tableview demanding that the filling stations close. The private security detected it, police responded, one of the members was arrested, the other 9 fled.
How many tyres were you able to confiscate, and in which areas?
Citywide, communities reported many hotspots to us, and I think I personally forwarded 20, 30 of those reports. And so I think we gathered just on 5,000 tyres. There were also about 350 EFF posters that were illegally erected on city lamp poles, and we removed those. They did not comply with the permission process to do so. and the EFF will be fined 514 Rand per poster.
This Team Cape Town has pulled together tremendously, working with the SAPS, tremendous coordination, cooperation between the city and SAPS, and all is quiet on Cape Town streets. There is absolutely no national shutdown.
Lewis says South Africa cannot afford to lose more jobs and economic opportunities. He adds people's right to go to work must be protected. Aisha Ismail, Cape Town.
Johannesburg, just monitoring if there's anything that is out of control, but the situation really seems calm for now. And like I said earlier, law enforcement agencies have been deployed to ensure that there isn't any mayhem or chaos that erupts in the cities here in Gauteng, and of course across the country. Just earlier on, we saw scores of EFF members who were led by their leader, Julius Malema, also joined by other organizations as well, who we are now being told were addressing, or rather being addressed by their leaders at the union buildings, the presidency's offices right now. The march was quite peaceful. In fact, the city of Tshwane has confirmed that nothing has been disrupted and everything was quite all right. The city of Joburg, just earlier on in the day, there was a bit of reports coming out from other areas, such as in Soweto as well, but it seems as though everything is quite fine for now. You know, Kuruleni, it seems as though Tembisa was a bit quite problematic in the morning, but we're told law enforcement agencies went there to swiftly try and ensure that there's law and order.
Human Rights Day was celebrated on Tuesday, and President Cyril Ramaphosa delivered the keynote address at official commemorations in the Northern Cape. eNCA senior reporter Sipa Mandla-Goge was there and filed this report.
Remembering a brutal past while prioritizing current challenges affecting South Africans.
The failure to provide adequate services consistently is a human rights issue. That is why we are working to improve the functioning of local government.
Regarding Monday's protest by the economic freedom fighters, he says he's happy most South Africans ignored the party's call to join demonstrations.
Even though others would want to diminish this democracy, even though others would want to abuse the rights of others, intimidate them, compel them to participate in protests, compel them to participate in days where they should not go to work, I am happy that the majority of South Africans did not heed the call, but they exercised their rights as South Africans.
Ramaphosa says getting ailing municipalities back on track is a priority in providing basic services. Sipa Mandla-Goge, they are in the Northern Cape.
Stay tuned to Week in One. Coming up, we look at some of the big interviews and discussions done by our anchors over the past 7 days. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Heidi Jokos. The country breathed a sigh of relief as the mass protests led by the EFF seems to have gone off relatively peacefully. High police visibility and the deployment of the army clearly played a critical role in this, and eNCA anchor Dan Moyane unpacked this with policing expert Aldred de Klerk.
They are on the ground, they are visible, they are monitoring, but they are engaging with the organizers along the step of the way, whether it was in Durban, as we saw earlier with Mobile Madlala, or in Pretoria, as we saw a short while ago.
Absolutely. They're not out there with riot shields looking like RoboCops. They're in their normal combat fatigues, armed routinely as they are with their sidearms. Yes, there are still worrisome signs of officers walking around with shotguns, not sure why. And they are engaging. And that's the key to this whole messaging today. The other thing they seem to have done differently is that they've made a commitment to be monitoring social media for rumors and mis and disinformation. and that they will provide the South African public with quality information. So we've seen advisories through yourselves from Nat Joins telling us how many people's been arrested, telling us what the state of play is, and ensuring that we have information that we can use to make informed decisions about whether we moved or travel or about the safety of ourselves and our loved ones.
Yeah, so the difference in approach should then be implemented going forward, especially because, Eldred, you say there have been previous occasions when the way police should act in terms of public order policing has been highlighted, as well as after the Marikana massacre.
Absolutely. We do now it seems that we, just looking at the visuals on your screen, just what I'm saying, the police seems to contradict that. By taking out the riot shields and seeming to get ready for some sort of containment exercise, because that is what the riot shields allow them to do. They allow them to stop and barricade people, contain them in a certain area, and cordon that area off. We hope then that that will not undermine the communication that police has set up with the protesters in terms of taking an alternative route, pursuing an alternative destination, or even leaving the scene, allowing them to egress, to leave from where they are. And we hope that whatever action they're taking now doesn't undermine what has been built and what is possible going forward. We've already seen from visuals, and we can only talk about the visuals, some microaggression from officers who were anxious when they were arresting those female students. They were swearing at them, they were pushing them, and they were acting as if they, not just the person executing the arrest, but as if they also the judge issuing sanction. We've also heard, and this is something that the police need to speak to, an officer giving an instruction to shoot at a window. Now, force has to be proportionate and it has to be necessary.
The North Gauteng High Court is currently hearing a case about whether rolling blackouts are unconstitutional. The case was brought by different political parties and civic organizations. eNCA anchor Mfundo Mabalane spoke to Action SA's Michael Beaumont for more.
One would say that yesterday was a very significant day because we had the blackouts issue being tackled on the streets, but it was also being tackled in court, almost overshadowed. But very important what happened in court yesterday. Perhaps take us through those proceedings.
Well, I think it's a very important piece of litigation that we're proud to be a part of. I think there's no question South Africans have had to endure load shedding since 2007. But since about October last year, that load shedding has become severe and continuous. And really, the impact that it has on the constitutional freedoms that are guaranteed to South Africans. We are guaranteed electricity in our constitution. We are guaranteed the right to health and dignity and economic development. And all of these rights are being undermined by continuous load shedding with a government that doesn't appear to have a plan. And from our point of view, the most important thing is to look at those most vulnerable parts of our society, particularly looking at schools, hospitals, police stations, to ensure that those entities can be exempt from load shedding in such a way that the education of our children, the safety of our streets, and the health of our patients can be protected in what appears to be continuous load shedding without any respite right now.
Speaking of exemptions, though, has the horse not bolted in that respect with the state of disaster? Because when going through the regulations, it seems the intention is to exempt a significant number of institutions.
Well, I think the fact that government's talking about doing these things is one thing, and it's obviously a first step. But I think there would be too many examples in our country of government talking about doing things without actually taking the steps to do them. And when you look at Eskom's papers that have been filed in respect of their reply, they are saying it can't be done. So here you have a government that is gazetting that all these institutions should be exempted to some extent from load shedding, and Eskom saying that this isn't possible.
Andre de Ruyter in his submission stated that if we're going to have too many exemptions, really the system would collapse.
Well, sure. And I think the point is that would be an understandable position if we were in a government that was making real strides towards ending load shedding. But here we are 15 years later, 16 years later, the situation hasn't improved, it's gotten worse, and government's plan remains opaque to most South Africans, and as well as the progress that's being made against that plan. In that environment, surely the right thing to do is say, we must protect our children, we must protect our sick, and we must make sure our policemen and women can do the important work of fighting crime in our country.
As the country celebrated Human Rights Day this week, Professor J.J. Tabane spoke to renowned poet and playwright Mzwakhe Mbuli about how far we have come in the fight for human rights.
The things that we fought for, people dying and so on, is this really what was envisaged?
Yeah.
Right? And if not, what are we going to do about it? What should be done about it?
JJ, let's, I think here, Mrs. Zula was going to say, you must tell the truth.
Yes.
Right? When you tap dance around the truth, is because either you are thinking of your salary or something.
Yeah.
You see, we should not distort history. When you begin to accept or allow people to steal your history, they will control your future. You'll understand what I'm talking about. Today you say it's Human Rights Day. No.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's freedom of expression.
Yeah.
It's Sharpeville Day.
Yes.
And I must give credit to either Professor Robert Sobuk and Philip Khosan, and other leaders will follow. If you say to a child, Google human rights, it won't give you Sharpeville Day.
Yeah.
So then people get misled.
Yeah.
If you say Google human rights, it will show you the 10th of December, United Nations human rights.
Yeah.
You see, then something is not right here. The Jews about the Holocaust, they are not actually puzzled.
They're not confused.
No, they are not confused.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about human rights, which ones, right? Bishop Tutu died without seeing the implementation of the TRC and restitution and prosecutions, right? Then you talk of no justice, no peace, no closure. Steve Biko died. It's not only Leavenworth who killed Biko. There are others that are still alive. Even those who participated in the Sharpeville massacre, some of them are still alive. They're old.
Yeah.
Okay? So we are a nation that will go and clean the graves. No, not to see the apartheid era crimes, perpetrators being brought to justice. If you say apartheid was a crime against humanity, the Jews are still looking for the Nazi criminals. No one was arrested. They are free, right? So then you say today human rights. Go to tell people who died in 1960, tell them about the human rights today, 2033. To go talk to Mrs. Biko, Marikana widows and orphans, tell them what human rights.
Stay tuned to Week in One. Coming up, I accompanied the new electricity minister as he assessed the country's various power plants. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Heidi Jokos. Electricity Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa is confident he'll bring an end to rolling blackouts. Ramokgopa toured some of the country's power plants to better understand their challenges. The minister says Kusile remains the most problematic power station, with Tutuga in a close second. I accompanied Ramokgopa and filed this report. Tutuga Power Station is the second most problematic. The Minister of Electricity, during his assessment of power stations, says Tutuga has major procurement challenges and it needs to be addressed.
Of the 5 that I visited, including Tutuga, and we know now we have the numbers, that is the second worst performing from the EAF point of view. We know the problems of Kusile are well documented, so there are design, if you like, failures or defects, if you like. But here they are at 25% EAF. And they were able to take us into confidence what some of those issues are.
The minister has again dismissed the possibility of coal syndicates operating. He says upon his assessment so far, that has not been brought to his attention.
It's not in aggregate terms. Even where the stations I've visited, I'm not suggesting that it's not there. All I'm saying is that on the evidence of what is presented before me, explaining why we are underperforming from the EAF point of view, the reasons that are given, if we are able to link that with something other than, if you like, design defects or things that can be explained in engineering terms, they know the problem is at the source, the mine. They source from this particular mine and they can leak. No, not coal syndicate, but the quality of what gets to be extracted from that mine. And of course, that requires a different attention so that they can trace it, so they are confident about what the problems are.
The minister will continue with his tour of power stations this week. There is no clear timeline, though, of when the country will no longer have to deal with rolling blackouts. Ramokgopa says he will soon be able to give an update and understands the frustrations of South Africans. Heidi Jokos, Standerton in Mpumalanga. The DA is pinning its hopes on the court to interdict the Tshwane Speaker's decision to adjourn this week's council sitting. The party says there's no reason for the adjournment, while residents in the capital city continue experiencing service delivery lacks. eNCA's Pulele Tweety-Jones filed this report.
The game of musical chairs continues in the city of Tshwane. This after the Speaker of Council adjourned the meeting until further notice. The Speaker says he's seeking legal opinion on the eligibility of COPE Councillor Justice Sifanyato. This comes after COPE's provincial coordinator, Colleen Makubele, issued a letter saying they were withdrawing Sifanyato as a council member. He is accused of having 2 ID numbers and a criminal record. However, the party's Tshwane spokesperson denies this.
Let me clarify this once and for all. The question of 2 IDs, it's fake. There is no 2 IDs in case of Mr. Sifanyato. It is just a typo matter that has happened from the side of IEC. There is only 1 ID which Mr. Councillor Sifanyato owns. The question of the criminal record, that is also nonsense.
The ANC has, however, welcomed the Speaker's move.
Well, the Speaker has always sought legal opinion. Remember, last week, the DA-led coalition decided to walk out of council without saying a word. So the Speaker is a person of law. I mean, he needs to run that council in terms of the law. So that is what he needs to do.
The DA says it will be taking legal action against the Speaker's decision.
So as a DA, we will be taking legal action. The reality is that the ANC is not playing games with us, as they like to believe. They're playing games with the residents of the city of Tshwane.
For now, residents of Tshwane are without a mayor and service delivery remains far-fetched. Pule Tweety-Jones in Tshwane.
Police officers patrolling in Westbury are just there for show, according to residents in the area. Just a few weeks ago, Police Minister Bheki Cele ordered increased visibility following a spate of shootings. This week, a 19-year-old man was shot and killed, sparking fears of more violence. Mangoba Mkunu has the story.
Barely a month after Police Minister Bheki Cele deployed more officers to Westbury, another gang-related shooting has rocked the area. The latest victim, 19-year-old Tyler de Kock, was shot and killed on Tuesday, a street away from his home.
When we took him out of the car, he didn't breathe anymore. And I couldn't take it. I lost myself. And I can't live without him. He was my baby. He was my life. They say he was a gangster. I don't know.
His mother says his death could have been prevented.
2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and there's no cops. Where's the cops? Why do they get paid? Now my child is dead. Now they want to do something about it. They could save my child's life today.
Residents say police have failed them.
It started again. Nothing has changed from previously. Yes, the police were on boots for the first weekend, but the previous weekend, the past weekend, no police was on ground. Yes, they do drive around in their vans, in their cars, but no one gets out of the cars to stop and search these boys.
Since this recent deployment of it's only 2 weeks, and you have shooting again in the area, that to me doesn't make any sense. So what's the use the police is here? If by any means the minister could explain to us what was the reason for deployment when there is still shooting.
But the police have defended themselves.
People, they can say they don't see them on the ground, but what we know is that the police, they are there. And if you can see, ever since we have deployed those members, it's only 2 incidents that happened. There was a shooting, and that person was taken to hospital, I think 2 weeks ago, and it was this day. So if the police are not there, why criminals are not doing as they wish?
We pray, God, that there will be no more bloodshedding, Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, Father.
A community praying for an end to the violence, again looking at police for help. Manqoba Mkhulu, Westbury.
And that's it for this week's show. From myself and the team, have a great and safe weekend.